This video is about applications involving ratios, proportions, and unit conversions. We'll start by talking about ratios, and we're simply going to explain using an example. So in this example, Jordan is going to be walking and jogging. So she starts out jogging, so here she is jogging along, and then she walks for a little while, and then she jogs again, and then she walks for a little while. So let's keep track of how long she jogs and how long she walks. And she first jogs for 10 minutes, then walks for 4 minutes, and then jogs for 6 minutes, and then finally walks for 8 minutes. So we'll just total these up and to see that she's jogging for 16 minutes and walking for 12 minutes. So we'll summarize that on this table here, and now we're ready to go ahead and find her ratio of jogging to walking. Now this is very important how this is worded, jogging to walking, so we're going to set up the ratio in that specific order with jogging on top and walking down below. So I'm putting the numbers. Jogging to walking is 16 to 12. This is a fraction which we can reduce, and once we've reduced it, we can simply call the ratio 4/3, or we may want to write it using the colon, and there you have it. Jordan's ratio of jogging to walking is 4 to 3. Now let's look at an example using proportions. So here we see Roshonda is sending 423 texts in 9 days. This is really a ratio right here. And now they're asking us about how many texts she's going to send in 30 days. Well, we need to set up a variable. So what should x equal here? We need a variable for the number of texts being sent in 30 days. That's what we're looking for. Now we're going to set up our ratio. We're going to say texts over days. We could have set up days on top and texts on the bottom. That would have been fine as long as we were consistent. So using texts over days, we're going to start with what we've been given here. That's 423 texts in 9 days. Now, what is this equal to? We know that we have 30 days. That's going to go on the bottom here, my 30 days. And how many texts in 30 days? Well, that's what we're looking for. That's our x. So we have set up that 423 is to 9 as x is to 30. And this is a proportion. When you set up a ratio equal to a ratio, this is what's known as a proportion. Or you could say a fraction equal to a fraction. But this is a proportion, and we're now going to solve for x. Now, one way to solve is to use the LCD. And looking at the 9 and the 30, the LCD, this is the smallest number that both 9 and 30 go into. That would be 90. You can solve this equation by multiplying both sides by 90. Here I can say that 9 goes into 90 10 times, and I have 10 times 423 equals 30 goes into 93 times, so that's 3x. I can multiply this out to get 4,230 equals 3x. To solve for x, I need to divide by 3, and I end up with x equals 1,410. Now there is another way to solve this, and that's by using cross multiplication, or we're going to cross multiply. Now be careful, students sometimes use cross multiply in a lot of situations which are not correct. The right way, the right situation to use cross multiply is exactly this situation, with a ratio equal to a ratio, with a proportion. You could say a fraction equal to a fraction. That's where we can cross multiply. And we're going to take what's known as the extremes and multiply those together. So I have 423 times 30 equals, and these are known as the means. The product of the extremes is equal to the product of the means. In other words, we multiply across. Notice we end up with an equation. We don't end up with a fraction. That's another mistake that people sometimes make. So as we continue with cross multiplying, of course we need to go ahead and calculate out the left-hand side. And what's next? We're going to need to divide by 9. So that gives us x equals 12,690 divided by 9. And that comes out to be 1410. Of course, both methods do come out with the same answer. In the end, we want to write a full sentence. Since this is a word problem, we need to answer in a full sentence. And here is our full sentence. And that is the answer to our proportion problem. Next, we're going to look at unit conversions, and by units, we mean things like feet, or centimeters, or degrees, perhaps degrees Fahrenheit, or pounds, etc. These are different kinds of units. So here's our first example, and you can see that we're given a certain number of kilometers, and we need to convert this to miles, so we're looking for the miles. This is our unit conversion. Again, since we're looking for something, let's set up our variable here. M will be equal to the number of miles equal to 400 kilometers. We're going to start by setting up a ratio, and let's use this ratio. We're going to put miles on top of kilometers, and we're going to start with M on the top. We have M over 400. This is equal to, now we're going to use our conversion factor here. 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers, so I'm going to put the 1 on top and the 1.6 on the bottom. Now, because these two quantities are actually equal, this whole fraction is equal to 1. So on the other side, these two quantities must also be equal. And that's how we're going to find M. That's the number of miles. So I have M is to 400 as 1 is to 1.6. This is the proportion we're going to use to convert our 400 kilometers into miles. So here's the proportion we're going to use. And let's start by cross multiplying. I have M times 1.6 equals 400 times 1, or in other words, 1.6 M is equal to 400. That's the result of cross multiplying. Now to solve this equation, next I'm looking for M, so I'm going to divide both sides by 1.6. And we have M is equal to 400 divided by 1.6. This comes out to be 250. Again, this is a word problem. We need to answer with a full sentence and include our units in the answer. And so we have 400 kilometers is 250 miles.